Hey, it's Penelope in London, and we're going to look at the Capricorn full moon that's happening at 8 degrees in the next day. It's about 20, just over 24 hours away. In the UK, it's going to be at 0056, and that's on the 30th of June. That's like 1 a.m. in the morning. In the USA, in California, it will be in the evening. It will be around 5 p.m. and in New York, it will be around 8 p.m. So we're going to tackle this chart. If you can see my pointer and here that I use, and you can see that the moon is 8 degrees up here, and that's in Capricorn, and 8 degrees, the sun is opposite. So the interesting thing that I just looked up before I go ahead, I've never understood a strawberry moon, what it was or what it meant. So as we know, the full moon peaks 30th of June, 1 a.m., around 1 a.m. in the UK. And we know that around that time, I don't know when it will look like will it look like a strawberry moon? So the strawberry moon is a traditional name given to the full moon in June, which I did not know, and it comes from the Algonquin peoples of North America, who use it as a marker for the relatively brief strawberry harvesting season in the northeastern part of the continent. So I never knew that. It signals the time to gather the ripening fruit, so it carries that quality of something sweet, fleeting, and seasonal, a peak that arrives and passes quickly. So other cultures have their own names for it. In Europe, it has sometimes been called the rose moon, which I think is quite beautiful, which carries a similar flavour of early summer abundance and sensory richness. And it also has been called the hot moon in some traditions, simply marking the onset of the summer heat. And we're definitely getting a lot of heat in Europe at the moment. I think parts of Europe, in the UK, it's been about 35 centigrade in parts of this week, and I think in parts of Europe, which I think Americans call the UK Europe, but I think a lot of people in the UK don't see ourselves as part of Europe. So Europe is Italy and Greece and over that way. And the temperatures over there have been hitting 40 plus centigrade. So you need to look in Fahrenheit if you're from the USA and you want to understand what that is. But it's been way too hot, and everything heats up a lot, particularly in the UK, because the houses are built to hold heat. So it's been too much, I have to say. But anyway, what makes the particular strawberry moon astrologically significant is that it falls at 8 degrees of Capricorn, opposing the sun in Cancer, which brings in the classic Cancer Capricorn axis of the home and roots versus structure, public life, and long term ambition. And there's a ripening quality to it that actually resonates quite beautifully with the folkloric name. Something that has been quietly growing is now fully visible and ready to be recognized. So that's quite interesting. And I wondered, I'm feeling that energy, definitely of something that I've been wanting to take forward and understand what that is now. So that may be the same for you or not. So the full moon, we're going to have this full moon and Mercury retrograde station happening, you know, roughly within hours of each other. So you see the full moon here. The moon is in Capricorn. So I don't think it's a coincidence with the planets, the way they work. It's quite interesting. And it shapes this quality of this lunation of what's going on. And the moment of maximum illumination, when the light of the full moon reveals what's been building in the dark. So we've been building something and now it's brought to light. It's also a moment when Mercury stops turning, it stops turning and goes the other way. It stops, well, it's not stopping, it's an optical illusion. It's just not like a full stop, but anyway, it will go retrograde and begins its inward journey through Cancer. And what is illuminated at this full moon is immediately drawn into the reflective inward turning field of the retrograde, and we see it clearly. And then we are asked to go back into it, to sit with it and understand it from the inside. So whatever it is, we're going to go inward for 3 weeks and look at it and get and sit with it to understand it from the inside rather than simply observe it from a distance. So, when we just keep moving forward, this is a time where we will quieten down internally and reflect, review. The best I heard on retrogrades, because people can get so paranoid about retrogrades, but I actually don't see them as bad things. I like them. I've got Mercury retrograde in my progress chart for the next 25 years or something, which started around 2020, and it's been very beneficial to me, that turning retrograde in my progress chart. So before I go on, if anything resonates with you and you would like to contact me to look at your own chart, then there is a link below. I work with people individually, and the booking link, you'll see it clearly. So let's now look at the Capricorn, Cancer Capricorn axis. So Cancer and Capricorn are the axis of the private and the public. So you've got the private life, which is the fourth house for all of us, whatever's goes on. I've got Pisces at 20 degrees, fourth house, and then the public life is the 10th house. And in the fourth house is the world, the inner world of the home as well. And Cancer is the interior life, the emotional body, the family of origin, the place where we are known without performance. And Capricorn is the exterior, the achievement, the responsibility, the climb. If you think of the mountain goat, the structures we build to make our mark in the world. And at a full moon, this axis that we're seeing are in direct language. What we carry privately, if you think about this, what we carry privately and what we are asked to present publicly. So we can have very different lives, what we present publicly and how we are privately. And what truly nourishes us as well, and what we are expected to produce. And whether the like structures we have built in our outer lives are actually in service of the inner life. So I think I'm at a point where the structures of my outer life have to link in with my inner life. And I've become very aware of that. So the light has been, I've had this shining light, this Capricorn. Capricorn is my second house for me, and it's my values and needs. So it's interesting for me that I've begun to value things differently and become more aware of what I value. And even where we think that things are boring, like we have to, like put fresh linen on the bed, or we have to do the mundane, I've realized how important those things are to me, the mundane things that keep my life really simple and really lovely. So have we built these outer structures in service of our inner life? And often for many of us, it's not until later that we begin to do that in our lives. Or, if whatever we're doing right now, have they become their own end? Like that 10th house is demanding so much of us that we just feel run dry, and that we're not really getting anything from it, that when we go into our inner world and home life, that we're just not happy. So this is the thing we can look at. And also with Mercury retrograde in Cancer, this will help us. So the Cancer side of the full moon, which is the sun is in Cancer, is rich. It's very rich. And Mercury retrograde is conjunct Jupiter in Cancer. So if you look here, you've got Mercury that's just come up to the Jupiter in Cancer, and then it's going retrograde. So you see the S there, that's the station. So the mind turning inward is the sign of emotional memory, amplified by Jupiter's expansive quality. So this isn't, it's not small, quiet introspection. This is a retrograde that is asking for genuine depth and genuine breadth of emotional reckoning. What has been carried in the Cancerian interior, in the memory, in our stories, and for some of us in the family, in the body, also is being called into the light of the full moon and drawn into the reflective field of this retrograde. So it may feel intense, and but it's also potentially very rich in what it's going to give us. If we look, we've got the T-square. I'm going to show you. So if you're looking at the chart, or if you're just listening, then you can listen. But if you look at the chart, if you are watching, then you've got Saturn and Neptune in Aries here You've got Neptune at 4 degrees and Saturn at 14 degrees. It wasn't so long ago. They were conjunct at 0 degrees, so that was a while ago, but not so long ago. So they're squaring Saturn. So if you look the Sun and the Moon in Capricorn, the Sun and the Moon, you've got 8 degrees and you've got 14. So, and we can see that that is a square. That's 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. That's 6 degrees off, but we're still in a square at this point with the Sun and Saturn. And Saturn and Neptune have been moving together through Aries, and we've spoken about this conjunction in my other videos. Across several videos, I've spoken about it over the last few months. Saturn is the principle of form. So Saturn is form, structure, limitation, and time. And Neptune is the principle of dissolution, imagination, compassion, and the transcendence of form. And together in Aries, they are asking how we build something real from a vision. So something when they were conjunct 0 degrees together, this is about we have a vision and we don't want to forget that vision, and sometimes it takes time to figure out a vision because we can think we want to add things, but actually it may be removal of things that actually helps us gain and reach and come to a conclusion of what our vision is, and how the dream finds its structure, and how the impulse towards something new and courageousness meets this discipline because it's Aries. So we have to be courageous, and we have to make it happen. There's people think that they can just think that we can make things happen, but we have to do something in order to make things happen, whatever it may be in our own lives. So as this T-square, Saturn and Neptune are receiving the tension of the Cancer-Capricorn axis. So again, you see 8 degrees, 14 and 8 degrees there. So the private emotional world of Cancer and the public structural world of Capricorn are both pressing their demands onto Saturn-Neptune conjunction. And what this feels like collectively is a moment of genuine reckoning, because I will say that again we've got 8, so that's 4 degrees apart, so it really is in a square also to Neptune, so I don't miss that. So this can feel collectively like a moment of genuine reckoning with what we have been building and why, because often we don't ask ourselves why. We're brought up into the world, we get educated. For some of us, we've been through education, not myself, but for some people have gone that way, that other people have had businesses or done all sorts of things. And then we're in it and we don't ask ourselves why we're in it, or we've got this illusion of what it's going to give us, and it's an illusion. I think that we can see if we look back in our own lives where we thought something was going to bring us something and it didn't, work out that way at all. So whether the structures in our lives are serving the deeper vision or whether the vision has been lost somewhere. So what we're asking ourselves is, does my current structure allow me to build this vision? Because if it doesn't, then clearly we need to do something about it. Like if we want to be fit and healthy, then we may be structuring our lives in a way where we're not, living in that way that's going to bring about health and well-being through food and such like. So that's just one example. So the vision, or, we may have lost our vision somewhere along the way inside this structure as well. So Sun square Saturn and Moon square Neptune are the specific threads, the tension between the conscious self and the demand of responsibility, and the tension between the instinctual emotional life and the dissolving Neptune, dreaming field of Neptune. There is both a weight here and a poetry in this T-square. It asks for discernment. So, because when Neptune's involved, we have to be discerning, because we can run away with Neptune and sort of float away. And for the capacity to hold form and vision together without collapsing into rigid, a rigid sort of way of being or formlessness. So now the other thing that's going on, which is fascinating, Mars has just moved into Gemini. If I go back, let's say a day, so 2 days ago, no, it would be a day ago, yesterday. In fact, this morning, I would say. I'm thinking because I'm going 2 days ahead or 24 hours ahead for the new moon. So Gemini, Mars has now moved into Gemini. So if we go hours ahead and we look at this, you see it's 29 degrees here. And if we go, there you go. So this would be at around 9 p.m. UK time. And that would have been, it's just moved in. So this is good news. Or maybe we'll see because it's going to conjunct Uranus. So this is going to be interesting. So Mars is conjunct Uranus and it's applying. So it's very close. Look, you've got 0 degrees and you've got 3 degrees. So this is they're already conjunct, but the exact conjunction is going to take place in a couple of days, and we'll look at that. So it's very charged, it's electrically charged aspect of the full moon. Mars in Gemini conjunct Uranus in Gemini, the planet of drive, will, action, fusing with the great awakener, that's Uranus, in the sign of communication in the mind. So this is not a gentle aspect. It brings a quality of sudden force of the unexpected action or an impulse that arrives before thinking does. At a collective level, Mars conjunct Uranus in Gemini can coincide with sudden disruptions in the information field. So we could look out for that because if you're bringing in Mercury going retrograde on top of that, you can see how this really builds here. And communications break down or something that was, contains statements that cannot be taken back, the fracturing of a narrative that has been holding a narrative that had been holding. So we can see that there's probably a lot of things that are going to be going on that we're not quite aware of at this moment. And at a personal level, this conjunction asks that we be conscious of where we are acting from impulse rather than intention. So I've had a couple of situations the last few days where I've had to really not go into impulsive reaction. It's like if you get a text message that someone wanted and you feel aggravated by it, as an example, you don't respond, hold back. It's about when we don't want to act from impulse, but this can be anything that we're dealing with that we think we need to say something. We just want to hold back a bit. And the energy of Mars conjunct Uranus is real and it is available to us also. It can be genuinely liberating as well. So sometimes maybe we do need to say something, but I think things happen organically in life. This is more about just taking care of ourselves. So it can be genuinely activating. It can be capable of breaking through a stuckness that has been building. But the speed of it requires awareness, and the action that Uranus inspires at a full moon arrives faster than the thinking. So Mars trine Pluto and Mars sextile Neptune. So you've got Mars trine to Pluto up here. They're friendly together. And then you've also got Mars sextile to Neptune. So Mars sextile to Neptune, that's 60 degrees. The trine is 120, but you may know that anyway. And the action that Uranus inspires, as we know, can be faster than thinking. So we have to remember that and just watch ourselves. The drive of Mars connected to transformative depth and to the compassionate field because of the Neptunes involved as well. And there is a purpose underneath the charge if we can find it. So we have to do that. So I will look at the North Node and Lilith as well, because I do love Lilith. And we've got the North Node up here, Lilith here. And for me, Lilith is that raw energy that pushes us forward. And this is not just the feminine, it's also within all of us, this Lilith energy. They're doing something. The North Node is also doing something here for us, and it's in what we would call a fifth harmonic, which is a quintile. There's 72 degrees and 140 degrees. So I'll speak a bit about this because I'm still learning about these quintiles. So the North Node is by quintile Mercury, if you see here. So the North Node is biquintile to Mercury. So that would be, I haven't got my calculator up, but that would be about 144 degrees. And if I put this chart forward 2 days to the 30th, but I wanted it, I'm going to have to go hours back, but that's going to be 23 hours. 1 a.m. There you go. That was quick, not too bad. Yes, so that's about it. That's about the full moon here, 8 degrees and 8 degrees, sun and moon. So the North Node is biquintal Mercury, and they're almost exact. And the fifth harmonic aspect between the soul's evolutionary direction and Mercury, at that very moment, it stations retrograde. This is really a precise alignment. And the creative perceptual intelligence of the quintile, because that's what the quintiles are about, connecting the direction of the collective soul growth with the planet of language and communication as it turns inward. And what the soul is being drawn toward is in its evolution. It's not separate from what Mercury retrograde in Cancer is going to be working with. The inward journey of the mind this summer is a precise creative alignment with the direction of becoming. And this work, it can't be forced. It's something that happens to us and for us. The North Node is also squaring Mars at this time. So you see here, the North Node is in a square to Mars. So something is being pushed as well forward. And the evolutionary direction is an active tension with both the impulse force of Mars, it's conjunct Uranus, and disruptive awakening of Uranus in Gemini, because Uranus is also square to the North Node, which is the where we're heading, the path where we're wanting to move towards. And it's not smooth because Uranus, Mars, North Node, it's not a smooth passage. The soul's growth right now for all of us is being forged in the friction. It's friction between the desire for liberation, Uranus, Mars, desire as well, and the responsible navigation. So that's really important of what liberation actually requires. The node sextile Chiron also, there's so much going on in this chart. This is the node sextile to Chiron you see here, because Chiron just moved into Taurus a week ago, just about 10 days ago, 19th it was, I believe, June 19th. So this continues the thread from our reading, which I also did. I wanted to say I did a video about that. So the evolutionary direction flowing towards the newly arrived Chiron in Taurus, the healing of worth and the body and the voice, genuinely available as part of where we're going. So the voice is really, to be used. That's what the voice is for. The voice can get things done. It can get things undone. So the voice is really important. Lilith in this chart is biquintile to both Mercury and Jupiter. And Mercury, so that would be 144 degrees. And Lilith has expelled Lilith, she's the expelled truth teller. So she was expelled from the Garden of Eden. It depends what story you go with and what religion you believe in, but there's a lot of mythology around this, and it's very beautiful. She is the one that refused to submit and was cast out. And so this is creative. This is a creative fifth harmonic dialogue with both the planet of communication going retrograde and the planet expansion of faith, also Jupiter. And Lilith is not, she's been looked at in some mythology as a demon, but she's not. There's creative intelligence with Lilith, the knowing that was excluded from the acceptable story from finding its way back through the fifth harmonic. I hope I'm not confusing you here, but what Lilith carries in the chart is something that Mercury retrograde in Cancer is going to help articulate, the truth that was expelled from the house. So we can all grow up. I mean, I had some very serious truths that were expelled in my childhood from the house. And, when I became a teenager, I stood up for myself. I used my voice. So long story, but what has been expelled, the family narrative, where the family narrative, has not been honest or truthful, and the emotional story that was agreed upon, because everybody's got their own story within these setups, and some people are not heard or listened to. and it's now being brought into language. And Lilith trine Venus also in this chart, although separating, adds a quality of beauty and genuine value to what she holds. So if you look here, and we got Venus down here in Leo, so that's beautiful. I do love Lilith. So from my experience of reading and understanding what she means for me in my chart. So Chiron square Jupiter is going to be exact. You see here, it's going to be 29 degrees and 0. And actually, Jupiter is going to be moving into the sign of Leo. This is just gets more exciting by the minute. So Chiron square, I have to laugh at all of the different things going on in this chart. It's amusing to me for some reason. I think it's because I'm too hot in London. But anyway, Chiron square Jupiter. This is a very tight conjunction, and it's seen across all this year's charts. Chiron has entered Taurus, Jupiter is in Cancer, moving into Leo, and the wound of the worth and the body is in precise dynamic tension with the principle of expansion, which is Jupiter, and faith, which is also Jupiter, as they move through the two most instinctual, nourishing signs of the zodiac, which is the sign of Cancer. So, what does it mean if we try to expand to reach towards something larger when the wound of worthlessness is sitting right at the threshold? So, the wound here of worthlessness, because we live in a world, it's very interesting. I was thinking, when people were trading, like, how would people get rich? Like, money would have been meant a whole different thing if we go back. Like, let's just go back 2,000 years as an example, which I can't particularly imagine. 500 years back, I can sort of imagine. I can get a gist of what was maybe going on, but 1,000 years ago, my mind can't quite see. You know, I don't have enough knowledge to know, but I don't see. But 500 years ago, I know that some of the history of what was going on. So how people would have been making money. There would have been backhanders going on and all sorts of things. And the Reformation would have been going on, 500 years ago, such. So, how people would have been, making money to live and food, it probably would have been more bartering as well. So, how we are nourished, how we nourish each other. And then when we look at the news, and, I've got no problem with people being extremely wealthy myself. It doesn't bug me. I just think that when somebody, so it can sound like I am bothered by it, by what I'm going to say now, but if somebody's got, they've made $1 trillion, I can't imagine what that would look like laid out in front of me, but if maybe I should, maybe that would be a good thing. But I think that when we look at that sort of, and we see what's going on in the world, but what I also found very interesting, I'm referring to Elon there, but what I find interesting is that if you take those amounts of money and you say, they should share it among the people of the world, that money doesn't really go very far when you really break it down into units of like 8 billion people. If you gave I haven't got a calculator. Maybe we could chat GPT it. Maybe I will later and ask, but $1 trillion into shared between 8 billion people, just as an example. So sometimes we can sort of like deny people's wealth and not understand that if they can do things with it that can make the world a better place, no doubt. And we don't know what everybody's up to. And there are good people who have money and resources as well. So not all people are bad. There are good people in this world. So coming back to this, what does it mean to try to expand to reach towards something larger? I was talking about a large amount of money there, a trillion. But what does that mean for us when the wound of worthlessness is sitting right at the threshold? So why I came to this little conversation here was because a lot of us are going around feeling worthless because we haven't got things that we think we need in order to be of value and worth. And we are really unique, and we've got this machine, this body that, no computer could be replicated like us, no robot, no nothing. I could be wrong, but we have a soul. That's what I'm saying. And that soul of the worth of the beauty of being human, such a special thing. So what does it mean to seek nourishment when the belief that one deserves to be nourished has been damaged at the root? So we can see, we can be taught, we could have been taught things around resources and things about how we appear to others or what we look like or how, what we weigh, where we live, there's so many different scenarios where we can feel like we're not enough or we do comparison, that game of comparison, and we're incomparable. So that is something to look at. So because this question and this full moon is placing it at the center of the chart. You see from what I'm saying here, this is such a busy chart. And Jupiter opposition Pluto at 5 degrees also, because that's going to come in. You see when Jupiter, I'm going to push this forward and see when Jupiter moves into the sign of Leo, which is, oh my gosh, it's July the 1st. See? This is all. So then it's going to be in an exact opposition, and this gets more interesting. Excuse me. Have some coconut water. So you've got the opposition to Pluto at under 5 degrees applying, and it adds depth to it. The expansion of Jupiter meeting the transformative force of Pluto retrograde in Aquarius. Excuse me, I didn't expect that. So I'm back. So the expansion of Jupiter meeting is the transformative force of Pluto retrograde in Aquarius. And this is the spine of this, what's going on. And people have been talking about this happening in July. And it is already very much present in this full moon of what's going on. And there's this tension between individual growth and collective transformation, between the generous, nourishing impulse of Jupiter in Cancer and the Plutonic demand for genuine, unflinching reorganization of what has been. So closing there, and the full moon at 7 degrees, which we know, is very layered. You can see all of the different layers here, and it arrives on the same day that Mercury is going retrograde. And then we've got within days of Mars conjunct Uranus and a T square to Saturn and Neptune, and then Chiron square Jupiter, and then the North Node and Lilith in precise fifth harmonic dialogue with Mercury and Jupiter. So this is really not, it's not a simple thing that's going on here. So and then the Jupiter moving into Leo, which is quite wonderful, I think. So it's asking here at the heart, what can you see clearly what the full moon illuminates in your emotional life, in our stories, in our family stories. And a lot of us have been hurt by families and stories. Some of us have not, but many of us have. And, we've been hurt in friendships and we've been hurt in, just by the societal structures, in the structures, and even the structures that we built ourselves, whether they serve us or not. And then when we go back into it consciously, like, and we look at it, without the emotion of fight, flight, freeze, and we just sit with this Mercury retrograde, like we'd sit with somebody we love or a companion and say, oh, this is going on. And it's not about fixing it immediately, not to resolve it by the end of next week and say, this task must be done. It's different. So, but if we give it time and the space, we've got 3 weeks, and Chiron and Taurus are all pointing towards this, my value and my worth and my structure and what do I want for myself. So this, I think it's a beautiful, to me, it's a beautiful full moon. It's not an easy one, but it's definitely, there's a lot of beauty going on here. So I think that's it really. I do like the biquintile, and I know I might do a video on that at some point, the biquintile and the quintile, to explain it better. But the North Node is biquintile Mercury, which is, that's, if you see here, up here, that would be 144. But, and it's exact on this day, is it's very significant aspect in this chart, because our direction on our soul direction. The turning of the mind are aligned to this creative intelligence right now. And when we turn inward to examine, over this summer, it's not a detour from where we're going, it's the path we're on, but we're solving something. So there you'll go. I'm going to leave it there. And sorry for my little cough in between, but that just because I'm talking so much. So, and I, and it's hot as well. Thanks for listening, and I hope to come back on Thursday with something else. Catch you later.